studying the principle of creation, section 3, purpose of creation. So then this is, today we're going to focus on the 3 great blessings. Okay, so this is from a Divine Principle book. When the kingdom of heaven is realized through the fulfillment of the 3 great blessings and the establishment of the 4-position foundation, it becomes the good object partner that gives joy to God. So God gave us the 3 great blessings, and when we fulfill it, that means the establishing the 4-position foundation, 3 different kinds, then that becomes the object partner of joy for God. So we are going to look at this more detail. But first, let's read the Bible. Genesis 1:28. This is his blessing, right? Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." This is the blessing God gave to Adam and Eve. So be fruitful, this is a 1, and multiply and have dominion over everything. Right, so we call that 3 great blessings. The first one, be fruitful, means individual perfection. You know, be fruitful, right? So we call that the first blessing. That is that first blessing. And multiply, this means you get married and you know, bear children and raise children and establish a family. That is the second blessing. Then the last one is have dominion over creations. So this means we love them, we love creation and take care of them, right? This is the third blessing, right? So we're gonna look at this one by one today. So first one, the first blessing, this is be fruitful, right? Okay, this is from a Divine Principle book. The key to God's first blessing is the perfection of individual character. An individual's mind and body are discrete projections and object partners of God's dual characteristics. Right, so this means this. So mind and the body are from God's let's see. Okay, so God has a dual characteristics of the internal character and the external form, right? So then the mind and the body is the discrete projection of God's dual characteristics. So separated from God, you know, and these mind and the body is the kind of a substantial object partner of God's dual characteristics. Then, in order for an individual to perfect his character, he must form a 4-position foundation within himself, whereby his mind and body become one through give and take action with God as their center. So in order for people, in order for us to become perfect, you know, attain their perfect character, we have to form this 4-position foundation within ourselves. So that means centering on God, then the mind and the body become completely one. And through that give and take action, or through that union, then we have the a good individual. Then this individual becomes their God's third object. Then we become one with God, right? That is the perfect human being. You know, the human beings who fulfill the first blessing is this one. So we call this 4-position foundation individual 4-position foundation. right? So this is the idea of person. God wanted to create man and the woman like this, right? Once we establish the four-position foundation, so that person become the temple of God, right? God will live in that person, and that person is one with God and acquire a divine nature. So acquire their God's nature, God's good nature, divine nature. And that person experience the heart of God, understand God's will, and live fully attend to God's will. So that is the perfect individual. So when people realize God's first blessing, they become God's beloved who inspire him with joy. And then sharing all the feelings of joy of God as their own, because they are one. So the man and God, or God and man, can share all the feelings. So they would never commit any sinful acts that would cause God grief. This means they would never fall. Right? Once they accomplish this one, this person and God, right? They become one. Then that they will share all their feelings, right? Understand each other, joy, grief, everything. So therefore, once like a people, a man become like this, then that man can never do something that make God unhappy or sad or grieve, right? So that means because we understand how God feels, then you never commit sin. You can't, So that is the perfect individual. All right. So now, like we see many times, their mind and the body unity. So here, mind and the body should unite, right? We're supposed to unite, and then once you really achieve that, then you can form this four-position foundation, right? So we're gonna look at that. What is the mind and the body unity? Because I don't know, sometimes very, very, very few, but sometimes not so easy to understand. Sometimes like you see, okay, body is always following mind, right? So like as mind command and the body moves, right? In that sense, mind and the body is always, properly moving in one sense, body always follow the mind. Right? Mind and the body is like relating that way, then that is the original idea. When I think, when I want to like move my arm, then my arm moves, right? So that's a mind and the body situation. However, when we talk about this mind and the body unity, so we are not talking about that kind of relationship between the mind and body, right? So okay, this is from the Reverend Moon's work. The Reverend Moon, Father is talking about the mind and the body struggle, right? Okay, like this. Looking at the mind and the mind is the subject partner in the plus position, and the body is the object partner in the minus position. Yeah. So mind is the plus and the body is the minus. Mind is the subject partner and the body is the object partner. How did they come to fight? It is because the body become another plus. Why they come to fight? It is because the body become another plus. The body should be eternally the object partner before the mind, but it took over the position of subject partner. That is the four. Yeah. So this mind and body, subject-object relationship. So that the mind, when you like a little bit remember what we talked about, what we talked last week about the whole purpose and individual purpose, right? Everything has a dual purpose. whole purpose and the individual purpose, like this, you know. So then basically the mind is representing the whole purpose, because mind, essence of the mind is love, right? So then actually the mind is really, you know, when we achieve the individual perfection, you know, if we say, so the mind becomes one with God, right? Then our mind becomes like God's part. Our mind attain, my mind should be able to mature love like God, right? So that the essence of their mind is love. Then if we have a mature love, you know, then that means like we have the really good functioning heart. And heart is imposed to seek love object, imposed to seek love, right? Imposed to seek joy through love relationship. That's why you look for the object, you know, somebody or something, then you always want to do something for that person, you know, because that is love, right? Love, you want to make them happy. You want to do something for that, right? So that is, yeah, when you are doing that, then you are living for the sake of others. That means you are living for your whole purpose, you know. So okay, when we have such become a when we became that mature person, we have that, when we have that kind of mind, you know, then the desire to do something for the whole purpose becomes very strong, right? So then the body is, you know, body's instinctual function. Body has instinctual functions. So that because the body need to protect itself, body need to maintain its healthy situation, right? So then the body has a bodily physical desire, right? So that body, when we say mind and the body, in this case, body is representing the individual purpose, right? Because the individual, me, you know, myself, my being, my body. So that's not really equal though, not completely equal. But when we say mind and body, that means basically talking about this, you know, my whole purpose and individual purpose, because mind is always searching or looking for, going toward their whole purpose, and the body is basically taking care of yourself, right? So if we have their good mind, matured mind, and love, then naturally this mind becomes subject, you know. Then this mind can control the body, right? That the mind is subject, then control this body. That means this whole purpose and the individual purpose of that person has the right, correct subject-object relationship between whole purpose and the individual purpose, right? That means mind and the body has the smooth subject-object relationship, and that is united, right? So that is the ideal man. So ideal man live for the sake of others. That because that ideal man has a mature love and the heart, then that heart is of course completely uniting with God, right? The man's heart and love is just like God's love and heart, right? So then we share all the joy and happiness, everything with God, you know. So that is the ideal individual's mind. When we achieve that kind of mind and the unity with God, then naturally this happens, you know. Naturally there would be the proper original relationship between whole purpose and individual purpose. Yeah. So that's, you know, no struggle. That's no struggle. If that happened, then no struggle. However, because of the fall, this subject-object relationship was reversed, right? That was the, you know, that Reverend Moon is talking about. So, but you know, the body should be eternally an object partner before the mind, but it took over the position of subject partner, that is the four. That the body means individual purpose. The person's individual purpose took the subject partner's position. That means we tend to fulfill our own individual purpose, right? So that then mainly, not everything though, but those kind of individual purpose is usually like representing their desire for food, desire for their the living, physically living, like a comfortable living, the desire for their sleep, desire for their sex, this kind of thing. So sex that brings you the pleasure, very physically so pleasure. So seeking that kind of individual purpose, right? That becomes easily selfish. That's you don't care about other people, right? That's this individual purpose, when it lost the original relationship of this one, proper mind and body unity, this individual purpose becomes easily the selfish desire, or that you become a very selfish person. So that's but many times that becomes so strong, then this whole purpose becomes a weak, then stand in the object partner's position, right? So that is the four, True Father said. So once this happens, still, even though this become like this, right, then maybe we may say we are like that. Our physical desire is so strong. That's why there is a conflict, right? There is a lot of conflict over everything. Conflict or fighting over their money because you want to gain, right? You wants to gain it. You wants to gain somebody's love, right? Then the struggle, fight over their money, over their land, over their food, over everything. Why you have to fight? Because you want to gain, that's an individual purpose. That's like based on, like individual physical desire many times, because pursuing your own desire. Yeah. All right. So then that causes lots of conflict and struggle, right? But that's not just causing a struggle with other people. Within you, you have a struggle between the mind and the body, because your mind is always seeking to live for the sake of others. Mind wants to live, or the True Father said, conscience, right? Your conscience wants to live for love, basically. You can't deny it. Everybody has that kind of desire. That's why you want to live that kind of life. However, you have another desire, bodily, strong desire here, So you have to really struggle between those, the whole purpose and the individual purpose within you. The subject object is not set. They're fighting, fighting. So that is the mind and body disunity we call. So, however, in the original ideal creation, so the mind becomes like God. That means like a mind has full of love and heart, desire to serve others, desire to live for the sake of others. Right? Once mind becomes that like that, then no more struggle between mind and the body. So that the mind and body has the proper original relationship, right? Then they unite. That is the ideal man. No internal struggle, So just happily live for the sake of others. Always when you get up in the morning, you have a full of love and heart, means you have a full of desire to do something good to other people. You have a full of desire to make some people happy. Your beloved happy. Your brother, to make your brothers and sisters happy. You have a lots of desire. You have a lots of idea every morning, every day, right? So that's why you have a full power. You have a full power because your heart is working so good. your heart is working properly, you have a full of love, then you have a full of desire, right? So then when you are like that, then you don't have the conflict between this whole purpose and the individual purpose. Yeah? Because you are giving for the sake of others, basically, then your individual purpose would be fulfilled. Because you yourself will be happy. When you are making other people, then when you could make other people happy, then so you feel happy too. Then when you are giving something, serving other people, then they will serve you too. So that's why you can fulfill your individual desire too. Okay, so that is the original ideal situation. So that is their mind and the body. So let's read a little bit more. This is also the Father Moon's work, right? Originally, the mind and the body were meant to be inseparable in total oneness. The human mind was supposed to be God's mind, and the human body was supposed to hold it as a container. However, due to the fall, human beings turned their bodies over to the devil and have been his servants ever since. So this is a fall. Human beings turned their bodies over to the devil, then the devil, but this, that's a kind of expression, one explanation of the fall, right? That the body became devil's body, our body. Body became an instrument of the Satan, in another word. Body becomes an instrument of Satan. Then Satan used our bodily desire, means individual desire. Then if you don't care other people, then that becomes a selfish desire, right? So that make all kinds of conflict and fight, hate, and resentment, everything, right? So Satan has been using our bodily desire, said the body, okay? So that's what he is saying. Another one, the human conscience does not exist for itself, but for the sake of God's righteousness. It constantly seeks the direction of goodness. Human conscience, our mind. So conscience, in this case, our mind, right? So when we say our mind, mind is conscience. And that does not exist for itself, but for the sake of God's righteousness. We seek righteousness. We seek live for God. We seek to live for others, right? That is our conscience. So the body rebels against this. It seeks only physical comfort. It is selfish and instinctively follow carnal desire. The conscience chastises the body and tries to make it conform to the mind. This is why bitter conflict and the struggle occur within ourselves. So that this is like a fundamental reason why we have a struggle within ourselves. If we don't have a conscience, maybe no struggle, just dominated by Satan. But even though Satan tried to invade us, and actually he's been using our bodily desire, but we have the conscience. We still have a conscience. Then nobody can deny it. Even the Satan can destroy it. We have a conscience. So, that's why we have a struggle within ourselves, right? That's why struggling, in the one sense, we are struggling because we are good people. If you are a righteous person, then you struggle more. And of course, that we've been struggling like that, throughout our human history. Yeah. So, but eventually this mind and the body struggle will be ended. That is the purpose of creation. God's idea is not like this. The struggling human being is not God's ideal human being. That's not God's idea. Our original human being is the person that person whose mind and the body are completely one, and the happily, naturally, just living for the sake of others and be joyful and happiness. So we can be like that, and we can create that kind of world. That is God's purpose of creation. All right. So, okay, I already explained like this. When we unite with God, then mature your love, right? Mind become one with God. Mind become like God's mind. And naturally, the person live for the sake of others. Mind is seeking to live for the sake of others. Mind always wants to love somebody, right? So live for their purpose, for the whole. So when we are like this, then you can keep the subject partner's position. Mind can keep their subject partner's position over their body. Okay, so body represents the individual purpose, but because the mind is strong enough as their subject, then the body can always follow mind. Mind can always conquer, well, not, in our case, we have to conquer body desire, but mind can control the body's individual desire naturally, right? That's how mind and the body can become one. Then no more struggle within, right? So then that kind of individual is just like God, right? That kind of individual. My internal character within God, external form within God. They don't struggle. They are completely unified, one within God. Then the mind and the body are the reflection of God's internal nature and the external form, right? Originally, that's the mind and the body. Therefore, like when we get mature and when we become the ideal man or ideal woman, right? No more mind and the body struggle. That should be completely one, like God is one, right? So that is the ideal individual. When God sees that kind of individual, God can see himself within that ideal person. That's how like God is happy to see that. God is happy to see that kind of his children, human being, being just like him. So that is the ideal human being. Now, second blessing, multiply. God's second blessing was to be prepared by Adam and Eve after they had achieved individual perfection. After they had achieved individual perfection, right? As object partner to God, each manifesting as aspect of God's pure characteristics. God has the masculinity and the femininity in him, right? So then the man and the woman are created in his image, right? That is a human being. So after they, Adam and Eve achieved the individual perfection, right? The Adam reflects God's masculinity, and Eve is reflecting God's femininity. Yeah. So then, okay, so they become that kind of person in order to construct the four-position foundation in their family. Adam and Eve should have joined in loving oneness as husband and wife and raise children. That is the second blessing. So Adam is representing God's masculinity. Eve is representing God's femininity. So then Adam and Eve, perfected Adam and the perfected Eve, engaged in the love, give and take action as husband and wife, right? Actually, that is very important, as husband and wife. And they bear children and raise children. So that is their second blessing. So in this case, right? So like Adam is reflecting or representative of representing the God's one nature, one of their dual characteristics. Eve is representing the one of their God's dual characteristics, right? So then they become one. here. So then they become the parents of this child, right? So in this case, as you see, so God is invisible, but God has their father nature and the mother nature in him. So, but, therefore we should call him heavenly parent, because he is not just a father, he has, I'm saying he. So God has the feminine nature too, motherly nature too. That's why God is the heavenly parent. So God is the invisible parent, but so he manifested his dual characteristics substantially, right? That is the Adam and Eve. So then when they become completely one, then Adam and Eve can represent entire God, right? Adam cannot represent entire God, or nor Eve can, So Adam is a half of God, and Eve is a half of God. So when Adam and Eve become completely one, then that union of Adam and Eve can represent entire God. Thus, Adam and Eve is the visible, substantial parents before this child. So that's why when they have their child, right? This child is Adam and Eve's child, but at the same time, God's child. That is God's child. Because only God can give the life. So this child life was given by God through Adam and Eve, right? So that is the family. That's how we create the family. So we call this four-position foundation, family four-position foundation. So had God and Adam become one, had God and Adam become one, and had God and Eve become one, then once Adam and Eve became husband and wife, their marriage would have been one with God internally and externally. When by loving each other, Adam and Eve gave birth to children, those children would have been connected to God's direct lineage. So like I said, so this child is God's child, right? So like this, everybody will be born as God's children in God's lineage. So family is the school of love. Maybe you cannot see this one. Can you? Family is a school of love. So we can experience all kinds of love in the family, right? Then actually God's love can be manifested in the family. Everything, all the love of God can be expressed in the family through parental love and the conjugal love and the siblings love and the children's love. Yeah, 4 different kinds of love. What divine principle says are 3: parent and the conjugal and the children's love. Yeah, but anyway, those those are different kind of love right there. But those loves are in the family, So then all those loves, of course, coming from God. So that means God's love is manifested in the family, in the loves in the family, through these 4 different kind of love. Yeah. So, God's love has everything, but we experiencing these different kind of love in the family. That's how we can experience God's love. Yeah. So, if you do not have the parents, or, if you do not experience a conjugal love, right, then you don't understand God's love. If you do not experience siblings love, then something's lacking. You can't experience God's love, right? So like that. So, but if you have this family, if you have this, family, God-centered family, you can experience all kinds of God's love there, right? Then you experience, you learn it, you experience it. Then so you become the true man and the true woman who experience and possess God's love, right? So you can become like that when you live in the family. Okay, without family, without having family, so you can't really understand God. Okay, so that family is that much important. Right. So when we establish that kind of family, then God feels joy in seeing his own children from good families that live happily as a couple, as a parents and children and siblings. Right. This family becomes a God's object of love. When God sees that kind of family, God will be so happy. So God feels joy in seeing the manifestation of the three object love for a great realm of love established through God-centered families. Same thing. So God will be happy, right, by seeing this God-centered family. So then we need to learn how important family is. Then the family is the core of the society. If we want to establish a loving, peaceful community, then we need this family. Without family, we can't create the peaceful, loving community and society and nation, right? So the family is the core of the kingdom of heaven. Family is the core. The kingdom of heaven is the let me say, yeah, smallest unit of the kingdom of heaven is family, not the individual. We need the family. Family is the smallest unit of the kingdom of heaven, right? So about absolute sex, when we understand this kind of the God-centered family, then we understand about the sex, right? So absolute sex, this is a terminology that Reverend Moon created, So this is basically the, the counter proposal toward the free sex theory. Okay, we the absolute sex. What is absolute sex? We keep purity until the marriage because sex is only for a married couple. The sex, why? Okay, that there are two, right? Sexual relationship. We don't have much time, but sexual relationship should be between husband and wife, right? So because they need that, or God gave them to have the permission to have that kind of sexual relationship, right? Because through that, then Adam and Eve, husband and the wife, can completely become one, physically and spiritually, mentally, everything, completely one, right? So that is their sexual relationship between husband and the wife. Then through that, then God can give the new life to them, so then they can multiply, right? So that is the purpose of the sexual union, that of course one important purpose is to give children, right? Then under the husband and the wife, then they become a father and the mother, right? For children to grow up properly in love, then the children need a father and a mother, So, okay, one father, one mother, one husband and one wife. Then of course, that husband and the wife's love relationship is not only for the making a children, but they can enjoy the oneness, complete oneness between them, including God. Okay, that is the idea of the absolute sex. So therefore, as God said, don't eat the fruit. We need to study the fall of man, but keep the purity until the marriage. That is one very important thing. Yeah, because that your sexual organ, your experience of the sexual relationship should be only between the wife and husband. So when husband and the wife become one sexually, God comes down to that union. Okay, we can study about this maybe sometime later, but that is a very important thing. So that the wife and the husband become completely one sexually, then God comes down there. Then those God and the man and woman, God and the husband and the wife become completely one. That is God's idea. That's how the beginning of this family, right? God and the husband and the wife, Adam and Eve completely become one. Then through them, God give their new life to their child, right? Then they can form their family for positional foundation. That is God's original idea. Therefore, this is very important. Husband and the wife. One husband and the one wife is very important. No cheating, no adultery, no fornication, nothing like that, right? When the husband and the wife experience the greatest joy with each other and God, the new life is given. That is God's idea. When they had the highest joy, greatest joy between the husband and the wife, then the new life can be born. God, because God is there. And through that, then when they are having incredible experience of their oneness, then a new life can be given to them by God, right? So that's how the child is born. God, the child is God's child. Okay, so maybe sometime we need to study more about this concept of the absolute sex. This is completely their opposing idea to the pre-sex idea. Okay, so then the last one, the third blessing. God's third blessing is the perfection of a human being's dominion over the natural world. Human beings and the natural world must share love and beauty to become completely one. So human beings, right, the prosperity of first blessing, then actually that how they can become completely one with God, live with God, right? That when they get married, so they can live with God, right, after that. So that kind of human beings are possessed God's love. Yeah, there is arrow, right? These human beings are one with God. This human being has the love like God. So by God's love, then they take care of all things and love all things. So then they can form the four position foundation. Yeah. So let's read a little bit more. Prior to creating human beings, God created the natural world by expressing partial reflections of the internal nature and the external form. Now, when you read the divine principles, so they are explaining things this way, always, even though this is not so easy to understand, always use the internal nature and the external form, right? Reflection of internal nature and the external form. Yeah. But maybe sometimes you need to get into it, because this is pretty important and pretty deep. Yeah. But okay, anyway, experiencing the partial reflection of the internal nature and the external form he had conceived for human beings. So God created everything for human beings. God had an incredible idea for human beings, right? God created the universe for human beings. That this is saying like that. So consequently, a human being contains within himself the sum total of the essences of all things. This is the reason he is called the microcosm of the cosmos. So God had an idea about Adam and Eve and the human beings first. So God prepare the environment of the human beings. Like when you get the baby, or the baby is coming, then you prepare for the baby, many things, right? So, so that the baby can grow up in good environment. So that's the same thing. God wanted to create his children, but God wanted to create some good environment for his children, a human being, right? That is the universe. Okay, so then all the idea about the universe came from actually the human being. Yeah, that's like a human being's a model of the everything. Okay. All right. So ideal human beings receive stimulation from the world of nature. Right? We can receive the stimulation, sensing their own internal nature and external form displayed throughout the creation. They feel immense joy. Yes, we can feel immense joy. God also delights when he experiences the stimulation of his original internal nature and the original external form from the universe. This is possible, right? This is possible when it becomes his third object partner through the harmonious union of human beings and the natural world. All right, so this one, God wants to feel the joy from the all things and the universe, right? So when we establish a four-position foundation, God can feel that. However, that is possible when the human beings become one with God, and when we love them and become one with their all things, and when we feel their things, beauty from their all things, So that's how like this four-position foundation was established, and the universe, which is the union of the human beings and all things. Then this universe become God's third object, right? So that means like more simply that the one important point is here that God do not have the ability to sense all things directly. All things also do not have the sensibility to feel God. Okay, that God and all things do not have the direct relationship in terms of their sense or emotion or senses. There is of course some relationship because everything was created by God, right? But like when we look at their nature, then we can see them, right? And we can recognize them, then we can touch them, then we can feel them, then that's how like we can be joyful, with them, with the dog, with the cat. Yeah, we can do that because we have some, we have we have ability to sense these all things. We have, but God do not have, right? God does not have it. So then how God can feel they are all things or the beauty of the universe? Through human being. Through human being, then when we dealing with them, God is within us. That's why God, when we feel something, God is feeling same thing together with me. So that is the human beings. So that's why human beings is in a one sense God's body. Okay, few more minutes. Be their Father's love, through Father's love. What was the God's purpose in creating all things? First, since God does not have a physical body, it was to assume a substantial form. I guess this makes sense. Creating all things purpose. I have some question about this one. Before the fall, God intended that Adam and Eve would become perfect in love and manifest his inner image. God needed their forms in order to govern the physical world. That's why God needed to create Adam and Eve as his body. That's a point. Okay, yeah. So the incorporeal God does not have a body. Without a body, God cannot govern the spirit world and the physical world. in order to manifest himself, he has to dwell in the body. God has no form. Even when you got to the spirit world, you cannot see God. Like God has no form whatsoever. God has no form, but he doesn't, but he needs one. So God does not have a physical form. So therefore, God has no way to touch or see or have there any relationship with those created beings, right? However, right, the human being has that kind of ability to deal with all things, and also we have the ability to completely become one with God. God can dwell within us, you know, that when we study the first blessing, right? So that we become the temple of God, right? That means like we become the body of God. Then God can, you know, can feel things with the all things, the nature, right, through human beings. That makes sense? Without us, God cannot see them. God cannot touch them. God cannot feel all the universe and nature. Even though that was a creation of God, right? God do not have a sensibility to feel them. Only through human beings, then God can feel joy and happiness through the universe, you know? So, okay, so that we become like that. Then as a representative of God, we take care of them, we love them, then we feel joy and we can enjoy with the universe. Okay, so that is the third blessing. Okay, then this is the God's purpose of creation. That's how God wanted to be happy and joyful through human beings and all other things in the universe, right? Okay, that is it today. Thank you very much.